to week 4 of ADHD Awareness Month. I'm Stephanie, founder of Empower ADHD and Ascend ADHD. And this week we will be focusing on family and friends. So ADHD in the context of family and friends. So last week we talked about ADHD in the workplace, at work. So for workplaces, entrepreneurs. And today we're going to be focusing on journeys with ADHD. So, and the importance of journeys that connect when you have families with ADHD. So I'm here with Tim, who's our Head of Engagements and Partnerships at Ascend ADHD, and Yusuf Noor from Journeys.
Thanks for having me.
Very nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
It's been nice, an absolute pleasure to have you. So with ADHD, with neurodiversity, obviously travel can be a potentially hugely stressful experience, can't it, Stephanie? So what are some of the reasons that traveling and making that time is so important for neurodiverse people?
Yeah, look, holidays really matter when you've got ADHD, because with all the challenges that we have, you know, we always hyper focus. We're very kind of prone to burning out, a lot of us with ADHD. And, you know, that will obviously flow into the family. So if you've got your working parents, they're going to be very busy. They're not really, you know, the kids aren't really going to get a look in, unfortunately, most days. So it's really important that these parents kind of step out of the whirlwind and have time out. Not just, and this is the thing, and what we're talking about, it's the quality of time out, because as we know, Yusuf, with holidays with neurodiverse children, it can go completely the opposite in terms of making it even more difficult, more stressful, more tiring, and parents with ADHD can come back to work and literally feel like they need a holiday after the holiday, like they need a holiday because of that holiday, and it was so strenuous and stressful.
Very true, very true. And I'm sure any ADHD or neurodiverse person will be familiar with the time when you get into the airport, you haven't remembered your passport, or you haven't been able to check in, and you're late, and it's just a huge panic-inducing experience. You get to the check-in machine, that doesn't work, and then your flight's on the other side of the airport. So all of these things will kind of act as a barrier to travel, which is the reason why for many neurodiverse people, they just simply don't do it. What is your experience with that, Yusuf? Have you?
So with me, with what's very typical of ADHD is especially with me at the airport, I got a late diagnosis about 1.5 years ago, but for the longest time, the problem I had was the kind of the organization of, you know, is my kind of passport in there, my money, my wallet, my phone, my keys, and it seemed like if there's one component or anything that's missing, you know, you've got a big problem on your hands.
Yeah, it's just literally panic-inducing. I've had so many experiences, for example, where I haven't got the right code for something to get on the machine, for example, then I'm panicking, then I'm late, and it's just a complete catastrophe. The other things can be, once you're on the flight, you get to the hotel's, you know, the air conditioning can be wrong. This can be hugely problematic for a lot of people. It could be too hot, could be too cold. And particularly for ADHD families, Stephanie, that can be hugely problematic too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, got extensive personal experience of obviously having ADHD myself, and all 3 of my girls. There's a mixture of ADHD and autism. You know, just even recently, what Tim was talking about in terms of the airport. You know, we were going via Singapore, and, you know, everything digital, and these machines, right? Like, they're really difficult to work out. Hang on, what do we need? And what's that email? Where's that email? And then literally, and then the children are like getting kind of a little bit panicked, and then they're putting that stress on you, and then you're starting to get panicked. And this is the problem. When a holiday starts like that, you know, you can already have like breaks in the relationship. It's like the very opposite of connection, and that kind of can set the tone for the rest of the holiday, you know, and what a waste. What a waste. So I was going to ask you, Yusuf, so in terms of your background experience, what made you create Journeys?
So there was more than one incident, and it all kind of happened this year, actually. So one was that I got to a point where I was going on a lot of trips. So I'm a travel journalist.
Yeah.
And you get, flung all across 4 corners of the globe. And I'm very fortunate
Poor
to be
guy.
able to.
Yeah,
It
it's
has
a
its
tough
drawbacks.
life, guys. It's a tough life.
It has its drawbacks too.
Yeah.
But like that being said, you go to a lot of places where, you don't have very much time to yourself when writing about destination. That's the first thing. Another thing is that you'll go to places where you're on an itinerary as well. So you might go to a place which is very ill-fitting or could be potentially sensory overload for many people. So I remember ending up on a party boat in Jamaica in the early morning and knowing there was a free bar and a lot of, people getting quite drunk by 11 a.m. with a DJ and like pulling moves I can't really describe live on LinkedIn. So that would, for me, I wouldn't say was a turning point, but it did like plant the first seeds in there to kind of make me think, what if there was something that could be tailored so that things like this could be avoided, or an alternative to such boat rides to Duns River Falls, for example.
Mm.
So I later kind of put into motion little things where, like, I remember our coach saying, what if we did this and what if we did that instead? And that kind of formed the basis of what would become Journeys.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've been very busy, haven't you, over the last couple of months doing your due diligence, like reviewing lots of hotels.
Yeah. Correct. So I've been on a lot of hotel inspections across the globe, and I've managed to double that up with, my own trips abroad. So when I've got 2 minutes to myself, I'm up to kind of do a hotel inspection, whether that be in Zurich, Montreal, Belfast, Paris. These places that I've been to this year have allowed me to see who's ahead of the curve in terms of who's doing, things that are autism or ADHD friendly. So that could be, check-ins without the need of going to a reception, of doing it via an app, dimmable lights in rooms or even corridors, their own check-in if you're blessed enough to have that much wealth, you come with your own entourage of security. But one thing I found with a lot of hotels is that, especially at the 5-star range, is that they tend to be quite adaptable.
Yeah.
They will make the needs for you.
So they'll meet the needs. They'll tailor kind of their services, the offering to meet the needs of their customer.
Especially when you're spending that amount of money.
That's the difficulty, though, isn't it? It seems, and I had a client actually who I was speaking to who was traveling, and obviously being able to find out where you are and where to go to can be another source. Even a new country, maybe the weather's changed, maybe you've got a sensory sensitivity to heat, and everything's just there's people everywhere, and it's like, well, hang on, where do I go? How do I get there? And I was speaking to a client about this, and he said, "Oh no, I don't have to worry about that. I've got the driver came and picked me up and took me to wherever I was meant to be going, but not everyone can afford that luxury, that level of body double is not accessible to everyone.
No.
I mean, it's very helpful to the neurodiverse, but yeah.
It is. I would also add that, with body doubling, and this is why we created what we created. This is, eventually we want to roll out something that's kind of a more affordable kind of thing at some point. That's definitely in the works, because it's like neurodivergence shouldn't be just limited to people that are wealthy. So with that in mind, we want to create something that's for everyone.
Yeah. And you were saying to me earlier, Yusuf, about I think you mentioned creating dreams.
Yeah. So, any travel agent will tell you this, and anyone who's, in advertising, you don't necessarily sell the product, you sell the kind of dream behind it. It could be, I don't know. At the end of the day, a customer or a consumer doesn't necessarily care about you, they care about themselves. And the reason I say that is because they, it could be something as whimsical as, fertilizer. Do they care about a particular brand? No, they care about if their grass is going to grow at the end of the day. So how I relate that to travels or journeys in this instance is that, it's not about selling a destination necessarily. It's about creating something they're never going to forget as a family. They're going to talk about 10, 20 years from now, whether that's kind of sleeping under the stars in a tent in the,
Yeah.
You know, in Finland, for example, all that time they went to, you know, up a mountain and over the Alps in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Those are the things they're going to remember.
100%.
So that's why I created this, you know,
100%.
to make sure people like ourselves don't get left out.
Absolutely. If you can
or have a bad taste in the mouth.
Absolutely. If you can take those barriers away, if you can take the 10-hour wait at the airport, or the not being able to check in at a hotel, which is deeply uncomfortable, you leave more space for those memories which will last forever.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of, you know, airplane delays, unfortunately, we have our limits.
No, there's nothing you can do. But if you can take the stress out of travel for neurodiverse people, or take some of those barriers away, you can harm to them.
Yeah, so I don't know if I mentioned it before, but we are talking to one particular airline since the summer about a sensory room. And that's a growing trend, because I know there are one or two that have them already. But in this particular case, you know, that presents its own challenges, because for the main reason being that, you know, with airport lounges, airlines don't, you know, they don't own them. The airport does. So you need to get their approval.
Yeah.
So that's the first obstacle. The second one is creating space. Is it feasible to create it where airport lounges are quite, you know, small as it is? And thirdly, airlines are not that profitable despite massive, you know, they've got massive budgets, massive overheads. So,
very true,
you know,
true.
Does that also work for them? So these are things to consider moving forward. On the flip side, they do want this.
Yeah,
this is something that's absolutely wanted and needed. So that's so that's very encouraging for people like ourselves to, you know, make something like this work.
100%, yeah. And I'm sure they'll be interested into making journeys easier for people with neurodiversity.
Yeah, and those sensory rooms. We were at the TES SEN show last week, and there were some, you know, sensory room providers there, and you were saying something about the space, right? There was one in particular, like literally, it was like a kind of a size of a toilet cubicle size thing, right? I mean, I know children are smaller than if it's an adult in an airport lounge, but really you don't need a big space for a sensory, like kind of enclosure. Because it's all about just being able to, you know, not be bombarded by the noise. Like me and my team, we literally found ourselves. Like we actually got kicked out of one of the sensory providers' rooms because we were having a chat, and you know, our table was like in the middle of everyone, and the next door was the sensory provider, and they've got like all these lovely lighting and the beautiful, you know, the bubbly things, and we just took our conversation literally to their space, and it was so nice. We're really happy there, and then they came, and then we got kicked out. But you know, they are so transformational. Just this space, it makes such a difference. And I would say that, you know, it very much schools recognize it, and we are getting to the stage. And what we've seen with the SEND ADHD, with the tribunal decisions, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if this will be the next reasonable adjustment. You know, in terms of corporates, you know, travel, you know, places being, you know, obliged to create these spaces, because, you know, particularly with travel, right, with neurodiversity, you know, that's going to exacerbate, like lack of sleep exacerbates ADHD challenges. Like, and we all know that, right? Now, plane trips, long haul in particular, I don't know about anyone else here with children with neurodiversity, but with my kids, like particularly, you know, if there's autism there and there's vertigo, there's lots of sensory issues with our kids with neurodiversity. It's not just the lack of sleep, but the motion, you know, like my youngest has the worst vertigo, and we had to stop. We were going to Bali, we stopped over in Singapore, and literally, like, we had to find a spot on the ground. So the poor girl was suffering massively. I had to go buy a fan as well. We bought a mini fan. I sat there on the plane with her, next to her on that plane, I think it was an hour and a half, because at least it was this last part, but she was struggling. She didn't want to keep going, you know, and I'm sitting there with the fan in her face. It was like, it's going to be okay. And it was actually quite turbulent too, so her vertigo was terrible. But, you know, this needs to be anticipated and supported, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm thinking that in terms of some airports, do some airports not already have people you can ask who'll be able to give directions?
Yeah, so
and help, or is that?
if I could just say, so like my mom went to Cairo last week, and though she's kind of not officially diagnosed with ADHD, in the airport, I don't know if you know the layout of like Heathrow or Terminal 5. So you've got like the British Airways check-in desk, but around it you've got assistance desks where you can queue up. And if you were wearing it doesn't even matter if you're wearing a sunflower lanyard or not, but if you are like marked for your attention that you're in need of assistance for check-ins, they will absolutely help you. And we got quite lucky because like an old friend of the family was the one that was organizing the queue. So she recognized my mom, and she was quite late for her flight, saying like, look, I will come with you. I'll make you check in. You could get an extra bag to check in for free. Just don't tell anyone. But like I will just kind of get you onto the plane and make sure you're seated. So, it was that extra charge. Your experience may vary, but like we got very, very lucky because we had someone who worked there. So nevertheless,
you got lucky.
That's exactly. But and that's why I'm saying your results may vary. But I am saying the assistance is available within British Airways.
And is that one of the things the journeys would be helping with in terms of just
absolutely absolutely. There is definitely scope for that because we want to make people's lives easier, not harder.
100%.
There is absolutely the the kind of the plan to kind of make not just that, but that you talk about sensory rooms, diagrams, people, coping mechanisms. So it could be, I'm just kind of plucking things out of the air. I get like fidget spinners, stress balls, like diagrams of what to do and where to go in a particular time. So it's almost like we're curating the experience for them.
That's absolutely brilliant. And I suppose there must be some airports and some practices to recommend. I mean, it can't be a recommended practice, I suppose, to take free changes to get to somewhere if you can just do the journey in one go, for example, on a flight.
So
because that's a hugely stressful experience.
Yeah, but during the summer when doing my research, I was talking to a friend, and she was talking about how her brother, who was quite autistic, was telling me that wherever he goes, whether it's a cruise, even on a cruise journey, he needs to be told well in advance everything that's going to happen as soon as he gets off the plane and the ship, and told where to go and where to be. There has to be certainty, there has to be clearance, and we can make that happen. But like the issues come, if there are delays, there's only so.
No, there's absolutely no. You have no control.
There are certain things.
That's very fair.
The weather and turbulence is out of our hands for now, anyway. So
unfortunately, you can't control the clouds.
No.
But if you were going to say to people how to get in touch with Journeys and what you can help with, how would you?
The easiest way is just to email me at, I don't know if you'll hear me because there's a siren whirring past, but like I say, you can control a certain elements. Unfortunately, you can't control sirens. But they can get in touch with me at hello@journeyease.co.
Yeah, and we'll put the email address and the website address in the comment section of the, just below this. It'll be the recording by the time some people watch this, so you'll be able to contact Journeys. But I can't emphasize enough how important, the holidays are. As an ADHD coach, personally, as well as a mother of kids with ADHD and neurodiversity, it's so important to carve out the space. However, our environment, is crucial. Like designing the right environment is crucial when it comes to making sure that holiday is going to replenish you, restore you, as opposed to wipe you out completely. And that's exactly what Journeys does. It's about helping you anticipate what all your needs are. So not just the kids, obviously, as a parent, if you're neurodiverse, you're going to have needs too. Yes, you will. And it's about accepting those, which obviously that's where the coaching comes to the fore. But then being able to create that roadmap, which is basically what you were saying in terms of your friend. A lot of people with autism in particular, they need that roadmap that needs to be clear. They need to be able to see it. For instance, the young kids need to be able to know where they're going to be staying, pictures of the hotel, like kind of being able to see it will reduce that anxiety. So it's about we'll help you kind of plan that out, where those kind of humps are. and try and make it as smooth as possible. It's just so important to be able to do this, to create that space, and yeah, carve out that time for yourself and your family, because it's so important to get together and strengthen those bonds. Relationships are everything. And for the kids, you know, these memories, the joy that you create, that those, like the dream, those times together, if you do it right, then after the holiday, long after the holiday, right, you're going to feel that difference in your home. Honestly, you really will. It is, I can say that hands up in terms of even, you know, personally, it makes all the difference. It's something to be prioritized. And if you can't, again, that's where journeys will come into play in terms of having the holiday, right? And the suggestions are ready for you, because another issue that we see, another reason why ADHDs don't take their holidays, they can't choose, right? They, like, honestly, it's mental. It's so, they get in there and they're, you know, fear of missing out, you know, decision fatigue. It's so hard for them to choose, to plan the holiday. And again, that's where journeys can help you. So do get in touch. I'll put the email. Thank you, Yusuf and Tim.
Pleasure.
And thanks for watching, guys. And we will see you tomorrow. I'll be talking about, with Rachel, who's Head of Engagement and Partnerships at Empower. We're going to be talking about living with ADHD as when you've got ADHD yourself. And that will be fun. So do come at 1. But thanks again. And see you guys later.
Bye.